Rooftop Sports welcomes you to a special presentation of the National Football League.
That's not what he wanted to cook.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Rooftop Sports, and here we are just less than 48 hours until Super Bowl 60, where it will be placed in Santa Clara, fittingly where the 49ers play. And it's going to be between our beloved Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots. And I'm sure everyone likes to make the joke. When you think of Seahawks versus Patriots, everyone's going to think of the 1 yard line, which has been basically a meme at this point throughout the entire week. So we're going to talk about, what to expect for the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about each team and what to expect from each the Seahawks and the Patriots. We're going to also talk about what the Seahawks have to do to win the Super Bowl. And we'll also go over our predictions, what we're going to expect, even though it's kind of hard to make a prediction. I mean, everyone should already know what my prediction is going to be. If you've been paying attention to all my YouTube shorts, or if you talk to me personally, I think you got the idea. And then I got some bad takes towards the end of the show. And then for a bonus, we will talk about the past Super Bowls for the Seahawks and reflect on that. Trident Podcast, how have you been holding up in the last 2 weeks, knowing that we are in the Super Bowl for the fourth time in franchise history?
Yeah, it's crazy. It felt like the championship was a lot longer than 2 weeks ago, to be honest. It's gone pretty slow, but excited for it, ready for the game. The Super Bowl buildup is always kind of very long because the first week is that week off, and the second week there's so much hoopla along with the actual game itself. So it's always a surreal feeling because it almost feels like you're preparing for, because you're at a neutral stadium. So it's just always a weird, almost like you're in a concert type thing. It's a very odd feeling in the Super Bowl, but excited, ready to go, and ready to hopefully bring the second Lombardi to the Pacific Northwest.
And most importantly, this is the opportunity. I know the teams are different. I get it. There's the only remnants of each, the Patriots and the Seahawks, is the Seahawks still have the Allen family as the owner. So yeah, technically it's part of the Paul Allen thing. John Schneider is still around. And also for the Patriots, Robert Kraft, the owner, and Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator. Yeah, believe it or not, Josh McDaniels is back with the Patriots. And you know what? For Josh McDaniels, I think he is best off being an offensive coordinator for life, because whenever he tries to move on to be this head coach, it just never works out. So, I mean, I guess there are some remnants of Super Bowl 49, but for us fans, it's definitely Avenge 49, because I personally still have not recovered from Super Bowl 49 to this day. And the only reason why it does not feel as painful is because one of my best friends is actually a Patriots fan. And I remember he was actually kind enough to not talk about it with me for at least a week. But I remember when I texted him, I was like, hey, congrats. And all he texted me was just exclamation mark. That was really it. And then he admitted that he was shocked. Like, he just froze in shock when the interception happened, but at the same time, he's like, oh, okay, thank you. So yeah, so it's going to be quite the Super Bowl, and we're going to talk about each team. And before we do, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and also go to Trident Podcast and also subscribe to his. And also, if you are still planning to this day to go to the Super Bowl, use my promo code Rooftop Sports to get $20 off the purchase, or JS Trident to get $20 off. I know the tickets are like thousands of dollars, and the only cheap ticket you're gonna get is like still in the thousands. But hey, $20 is $20. You're still gonna get a full meal out of it in Santa Clara.
Hey, better to save the $20 than have to spend it. I mean, right? If you're going, better to have it and than to have to give it up.
Get the free,
anything, right?
At least get a free food out of it.
Even if you were buying something for like $10,000 and someone's like $20 off, I mean, it's better than nothing. You won't turn it down. Rather pay $20 less.
and it's free to use, right? It's free to use my promo code. I'm not going to charge anything extra out of it, so take advantage of it. And now we will get to Patriots and the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks are the slight favorite, and I get it because Seahawks have the best defense in the NFL. They also have a more efficient offense compared to the New England Patriots. As on the defensive side, Seahawks are the best defense in the NFL. As the Patriots, they are still pretty darn close, fourth in the NFL on defense. And then on offense, as I got to see who is the best offense in the NFL, I think they say I'm trying to think who. It's probably gonna be about who does it by most points. I gotta find that.
Probably the Rams by points scored.
That's true. All right, where was it? Rams had the best offense, but Patriots had the third best offense in the NFL. But usually, when you go into a Super Bowl, you want to go into the Super Bowl with usually the best defense more than you want to have the best offense, because we did see that in Super Bowl 48. Now, granted, that was over a decade ago, but when it was the best defense, the Seahawks, and the most offensive prolific team called the Denver Broncos under Peyton Manning, who were number one on offense, they only managed 8 points. So the little bit of confidence I have there is that the Seahawks do have the best defense, and they also have one of the best special teams, including what's his name?
Rashid Shaheed.
Rashid Shaheed, one of the best return men, which that will also give the Seahawks the advantage. But as for the Patriots, they're still a well-run football team. Got to respect it. Mike Vrabel, who has completely turned this team around, and he does have some of the Brady and the Belichick kind of blood in him, because Mike Vrabel was part of the early Super Bowl teams, including beating the 14-point favorite Rams and playing with Tom Brady. So there is some of that. I'm sure Belichick, maybe in some years of his life, he may have at least given a thing or two to Mike Vrabel. Same thing with Tom Brady, probably. So I do expect this Super Bowl to be a challenge. And what do you expect out of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think you got a lot of it pretty well there. If you go back and look at Super Bowls past, I think the better defense tends to beat the better offense in these games. But neither team is a slouch on the other side too. Not like Seattle's offense is bad. It's not like New England's defense is bad by any means. And, Seattle's been able to beat a team, I think, with a better offense than the Rams the last couple times. Granted, they haven't played their best defense against the Rams. So that, but the Rams are really the only team this year that's gotten Seattle. And then Tampa did it early in the year when Seattle was missing a lot of guys, and a lot of guys came out of that game. But other than that, the only team where I've been like, dang, this offense just isn't coming through, or the defense just not coming through, has been the Rams. So other than that, the Seattle defense has answered every call, and I have a ton of respect for the Patriots. I actually think their coaching staff probably a little more experience here. Vrabel as a player has been here, plenty of times. First time as a coach, but as a player has been here several times. Who's the guy you talk? Josh McDaniels. I think it's like his 9th Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator or something, which is crazy. So he's got plenty of experience, and just the Pats organization in general, has obviously a ton of experience being here. But as a team, I just don't think the Patriots have the weapons that the Rams have, for all look what the Rams did to Seattle. The Patriots just can do that. Sure, like anything can happen, but I think Stafford's a better quarterback than Drake May, and has a little bit more veteran savvy. I don't think the Patriots have the receivers like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams that can, do what they did against Seattle's defense. And they don't have Sean McVay calling plays either, and I think Josh McDaniels is a good OC, but I think McVay is a tier above pretty much everybody else. So it's hard for me not to think Seattle's defense will have some success here. Obviously not going to get into predictions here, but, feeling pretty good. I think on paper, Seattle's 4.5-point favorites. That's probably about where I'd have it. I think that's about fair. New England's certainly a very, very good football team. I think that's maybe being dismissed a little bit from some Seahawks fans, because I think a lot of people really view the Rams as, that top competitor. It was the Rams and Seahawks. But this Patriots team outside the Rams is probably the best team they've played. Like, you'd say the Rams 1, 2, and 3, then I think probably the Patriots would be the next best team Seattle's played this year. So it's not like we're playing the Super Bowl against the Raiders or Titans here or anything like that. It's a really good New England team that, 1 or 2 bounces go their way and they could easily win the Super Bowl. So I don't think it's going to take anything like crazy, but I think Seattle's rightfully favored.
I can see that. I totally understand. I look at the numbers totally. But how I think the Patriots can beat the Seahawks is by the coaching. Now, don't get me wrong. Mike McDonald definitely is absolutely, he should be the bona fide coach of the year, which I do believe that. But I do also think that Mike Vrabel has just as much of a right to also get that award. I mean, this was also a guy that he's taken them to at least the AFC Championship, where he had his chance to get to the Super Bowl. He took a team that ran by Ryan Tannehill to lead that team. And the fact that he was able to turn around a 4-13 Patriots team and this was when Drake May was heavily doubted. Like, no one really thought much of him, especially with the North Carolina quarterback. But Mike Vrabel was able to scheme his way out of it. And the other argument against the Patriots that I have noticed is this following is it is the strength of the schedule that everyone has been talking about. The Seahawks, when it was all said and done, they actually played in the 4th toughest schedule in the NFL. That's what they're saying. And New England played the easiest schedule in the NFL. And let's review the teams that the Patriots played. They lost the opener to the Raiders. They beat the Dolphins, who are pretty much they have pretty much been lost. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they lost to them. So they're at 1-2. Then they beat Carolina. They beat Buffalo, who's been on their down season. Carolina was just kind of in the early. They were trying to figure it out. Then they beat the Saints, who haven't really been doing much. The Titans with pretty much a rookie quarterback. The Browns, well, they're the Browns. The Falcons had a pretty bad year. Tampa Bay, that's when they started falling apart. The New York Jets, I mean, it's the New York Jets. I hate to say it. And then Cincinnati, I don't even think even had their starting quarterback in Joe Burrow. And I'm checking it right there. If they did have, no, Joe Flacco, an old 40-year-old Joe Flacco was there. And then the Giants are pretty much, bad. And then they still lost the Bills at home, beat the Ravens, and then they beat the Jets, of course, in Miami. So, I mean, there is a case on why the betting odds are saying it's going against the Patriots, because their strength of schedule it's just not there. Now, granted, in the NFL, no matter whether you have the easiest schedule and you have the hardest schedule, you still have to win your games. You still have to execute, which they were able to do. So kudos to that. Now, for the Seahawks, this is who they played in the regular season. So they played the 49ers when they were actually healthy, with Brock Purdy and all of their players were available, like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. Then they had to go against the Pittsburgh Steelers when I'm pretty sure the Steelers were favored to win that game. And it's usually difficult to win in Heinz Field, knowing that the Seahawks don't exactly have the best history in Heinz Field themselves, and just playing the Steelers in general. They beat the Saints, but okay. And the Cardinals, and that's when it was kind of early in the season, and the Cardinals still gave them a game. We played Tampa Bay when they were just on fire. Jacksonville, when they did win that division. Got to give them that. The Houston Texans, that's when they have a really good defense, and they were able to at least make it interesting. But funny enough, I didn't even watch that game or even give that game attention, because guess what day that was?
Yeah, that was game 7.
Yeah. As I think I remember when the game was over, I didn't even want to look at that game. I was so drained that I remember I didn't even make YouTube videos after that for that rest of the day. I was just so drained from it. Anyways, the schedule. The Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, that's when he got injured. The Cardinals were pretty much bad at that point. The only notable loss really was the Rams. And that was their last loss. And that's when Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions, and somehow the Seahawks were at least able to get Jason Myers an opportunity to win that game. So easily the Seahawks could have finished 15 and it could have been 15-2. And then they played the Titans, which that was they're pretty much on their way out. The Vikings regretted giving up Sam Darnold. The Falcons, that was I mean the schedule got kind of easier towards the end just a little bit. And then they played the Colts, but that was still not easy because that's when Colts were still in contention. And Phillip Rivers, he actually almost won that game. And then the Rams, that was that thrilling overtime game. Obviously, that was not an easy one. Even the Panthers gave us a little bit of a scare, at least a respectable first half they gave the Seahawks. And then you still had to beat the 49ers on their turf. Now, granted, of course, they were injured, but the Seahawks still had to take care of business. So based on what I'm saying, the Seahawks have been playing the better teams. But at the same time, the New England Patriots, they are still in the Super Bowl for a reason. So you still got to give credit to them. Now, I'm trying to think like for the Seahawks, what they've got to do is, obvious. Sam Darnold still has to protect the football. They still have to get the running game going because it's still not going to be easy because considering that Zach Charbonnet is out and none of the backups for Kenneth Walker really amounted to really much except maybe converting a third down. So the run game, I think, is still going to be a challenge because all you really have is Kenneth Walker and the other guys, they haven't really been seen much quite yet. So I think it's going to be up to Sam Darnold to protect that football as the best that he possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. There we go. Sorry, my mic was off. Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think, going to be, always an issue about with Darnold is the turnovers, and he's done a good job. This postseason hasn't turned it over towards the end of the year. Remember the last time I was like, ugh, with the turnovers was that Rams game where he threw the 4 picks that you mentioned. Other than that, he's been pretty solid. So, I think if, New England's run defense, I think has been really good. So if Walker can just be, sufficient enough on the ground and, obviously with JSN, the tight ends and Cup and, maybe Shaheed deep a couple times, we'll see. I think the Seahawks offense can have some success. It's a good Patriots defense. It's definitely, and I've heard that too with the schedule. That's kind of been a thing. And it definitely, listen, I do think it matters, to an extent, but also, hey, sometimes, you beat who's in front of you. Like you said, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You play who you play. And I think New England is, again, I think Seattle's a better football team, but I do think New England been a little dismissed too much. I think this is a really, outside of the Rams, I think this is the best team Seattle has played this season. I think the Texans are better on defense, but I think Drake May is, a better offensive field general than CJ Stroud. Jags would be another one that would kind of be up there, but I think overall New England is just better than Jacksonville. Maybe the Niners healthy would be better, but they're not. So right now, on a neutral field, I'd take New England over San Francisco. And then something like Pittsburgh was so early in the year, it's hard to say. Pittsburgh did beat New England, funny enough. And both teams haven't lost in forever. Obviously, if you're in the Super Bowl, you haven't lost a game in the playoffs. So it's going to be at least a month before he lost. But the last time Seattle lost was that Rams game in LA. And the last time New England lost, I think they lost to Buffalo in December. But other than that, it was I think it was Pittsburgh back in week 3. And one of the craziest ones is the Patriots losing to the Raiders in week 1. I know week 1, both teams kind of with weird week 1 losses. Obviously, the Niners turned out to be still pretty solid, but the Patriots losing to the Raiders is going to be one of the all-time baffling results that has happened in a regular season game. When you at the time, I didn't think it was that crazy, but looking back now, how on earth did that happen?
Well, we also saw the New England Patriots in the 2014 season. They also lost some weird games. They lost to the Chiefs when it wasn't Pat Mahomes. It was more of an Alex Smith, and they were not exactly on their, I think they weren't exactly on their best. And then they lost to the Kyle Orton Bills out of all teams. Now, granted, they also had a fantastic defense themselves. I got to see the losses that they had in 2014 because I'm only doing this because, we're playing the Patriots again. They lost to Miami in their first game, then they got blown out by Kansas City, and that's when they were 2-2, and I think there were some little doubters. Lost to Green Bay, and they lost to Buffalo. So they lost to like they lost to quality teams, but they lost to like Miami and then the Bills when Kyle Orton was their quarterback.
Yeah,
So
I remember that Chiefs game. I think that was like a Monday nighter or something. And there was like even rumors of like, are they benching Brady? Like not, but it was like
I remember that.
Stuff.
No, I do remember.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was some like
I gotta show that video of
Yeah.
they actually did ask Bill Belichick, like, hey, do you think with how Brady played and now Garoppolo is subbing in, do you think there'll be some kind of quarterback controversy? And this was literally his reaction. Like, it was like, did you really just ask that question? It was just a bad game. Well, yeah,
that was also the Deflategate year. That was also the championship where the Deflategate happened before the Super Bowl.
All right, well, yeah, it was. Oh, here it is.
I remember. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead. But I gotta get the screen up anyway.
Okay, I was gonna say I remember thinking a little bit before the Super Bowl, like, man, it'd be kind of funny if like Brady got suspended for the Super Bowl or something for Deflategate. I will say this, like, obviously, I think we're kind of in the same boat. Like, hey, you want to be champions, you got to beat the best. But I do think like there was no way the NFL would have suspended theirs because they suspended Brady to start the next season. They could have absolutely and deservedly suspended him for that Super Bowl, and it would have been justifiable.
They waited till 2016 to do it.
Yeah. Oh, was it 26? Oh, you're right. It was like a year and a half. So maybe not then.
And then after they won that Super Bowl against the Falcons, after that huge 28-3 comeback, you never heard of Deflategate after that ever again because, like, well, they did come back from a 28-3 lead and they didn't cheat, so you kind of can't hate him anymore. So I think that's when all the hate was just evaporated. Now they just turned it into, oh, they're just fine. They're just the evil empire. So be it. Oh yeah, here's what it was.
You said Tom will start when he's eligible. Can you think of an occasion when you picked a 5 starter in July?
Yeah, I don't know.
What happens if Jimmy plays better?
Look, I told you what's going to happen.
So there's this.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, he actually said JC in there.
Yeah, I remember
that.
That was that year. Yeah, I remember that was early in the year, Monday night. I don't know why. I just have a vivid memory of that game. So,
yeah, I think maybe we can blame the reporter for doing that because that may have provoked the Patriots to play better because they're like, oh, is there quarterback controversy? And Bill's like, what are you talking about? It's Tom freaking Brady.
I was going to say, I don't think it was actually like a controversy. It was more of a question that made it. But of course, that started circulating everywhere. And then it became like a controversy out of that. I doubt it was ever actually a controversy of any kind. But that's crazy. I think something you said that was interesting was I think the only player the only ties from the last Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl this year, I can only think of 2. Obviously, Josh McDaniels. And then, I mean, the owners, obviously, and John Schneider for the Seahawks. But, I mean, is there anybody else that's even remaining that was
fans.
like the fans? I mean, just organization. I mean, I don't know the Patriots front office that well, but, like, the owners, obviously, Kraft. Even for the Seahawks, a little different with Jody Allen versus Paul Allen. So, is there anybody else that's like, is there a random player? Not for Seattle. I wonder if New England has anybody still on
doubt
that
it.
team.
I mean, it's been a decade, so it's
years.
It's hard to see if there's anyone still on the team to this day.
Yeah, unless there was a rookie or something that was really good that's a veteran. That'd be the only like chance. The only Seahawk that's somewhat close, but he wasn't on that team, is Jaron Reed. That's the only one that was kind of close to maybe being on that team. But
no, it's a long ways. And wanted to go back and I looked at the offensive rankings. So for the run game, the Seahawks and the Patriots are about the same in terms of their ability to defend the run. And for the pass, they're also about the same, where they give up a little bit of less yards. Actually, I gotta check the stats really quickly. It's like the NFL ranking. So in passing yards, the Seahawks are one of the top teams in against the run. They are the third best in giving up the least amount of yards. New England is number 6, and in terms of passing, they are about 9 and 10. Patriots have they're slightly better against the pass than the Seahawks. So I think the Super Bowl I'm going to kind of expect. I think I'm going to expect something similar to the 2018 Super Bowl between the Rams and the Patriots. Remember when that game was purely Patriots won that game on the run and defense, and everyone was saying it was such a boring game. But honestly, I think I like games like that. I think the most overrated football games of all time that I've ever seen are the games where it's like 54 to like 51. I hate those games because defense is just gone, and all this is just offense going at each other. I like it when the offense is struggling on both sides, and it's going to be who inches out the best. I think games like that, I think, are the most fun for Super Bowls, or at least you want something where it's like 21-18, but like a Super Bowl I didn't like was the Eagles and Chiefs when that was literally a shootout. Like I like games where it's a little bit more unpredictable. Like a game like a shootout Super Bowl is like just too predictable. I know that it gets more eyeballs because touchdown, 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 but I think if you're a true football fan, you want to, or if you're more of a football fan like us where we appreciate the game in many different aspects, you would want a game closer to like the Rams and Patriots when it was kind of low scoring because there's just like, are they ever going to cross the 50-yard line? Are they ever going to score? The defense makes it exciting. So I do expect a game like that, especially when both defenses defend the pass well. And that's why I think this game is going to be more on the run game than the passing game. But I do think that you would think that New England's going to try to get something going on the pass more because they know that the Seahawks run defense is absolutely a beast. I mean, look what they did to Christian McCaffrey and out of all people, he's one of the best running backs, and they held him at one point and I think both those games, those last 2 games with 49ers, they gave up less than 100 all-purpose yards from scrimmage against Christian McCaffrey. So that's why the run game is going to be based on the ability to, well, for the Seahawks, it'll be their ability to run the ball and protect the football. And for the Patriots, it's going to be if they can even get past that secondary.
Yeah, I agree in terms of the type of game. I mean, granted, I'd rather see like 60-0 Seahawks. That would be very fun. So I'd like to see the Seahawks score a lot and the other team not. But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes as a casual observer, the 50-50 games are fun because it's just like, oh wow, it's just nonstop. But like it's at the end of the day, it's not great football. You know what I mean? It's not. It's just more entertaining football. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the more like I think in those 20s is a good like 20-14, 21-17 is kind of like the ideal football game because you're getting a little bit of offense. 6-3 isn't great either because it's like, okay, are these good defenses or just incompetent offenses? But I mean, obviously, we'll take any win no matter how it looks. I mean, if Seattle ends up winning this game 3-0, then so be it. We'll take the 3-0 win and celebrate it. And if they win 55-52, I'd be shocked at both defenses giving up that amount of points. But, we'll take that as well and enjoy it. So, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And yeah, I also think Drake May using his legs a little bit will be important. That seems like something Seattle's struggled with a little bit at times is some of the mobile quarterbacks. The game that comes to mind a little bit is Tennessee. Like they had Cam Ward a bunch of times, but he just kind of wiggled out of some stuff. That made that a little difficult. Baker Mayfield, who's fairly mobile, like not a guy that takes off and runs for a ton of yards, but that proved to be a little difficult. Purdy's pretty good at that, and Seattle did a good job at containing Brock Purdy, so they did a better job there. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Bryce Young did a little bit. I think he had a touchdown run, but he was so bad throwing the ball that it ended up not really mattering. So, I think Seattle's been fine in that aspect, but definitely a place where I'd look for New England to make a little headway. Is May running the football. And also, he had a shoulder injury. I mean, obviously he's playing, but it was something that, there was I don't know if there was actual question if he'd play or not, but it was a little bit up in the air. So maybe that's affecting him a little bit there. So we'll see. But I'm with you. I think the running game is going to be hard for New England to get going, although they have two pretty good backs with Stevenson and Henderson. So, maybe they can find a way, but I think their better avenue is probably through the air. And I just don't think they have the weapons. And I know Drake May was fantastic this year, and he's more mobile, but I just, Stafford's just, to me, and winning the MVP, Stafford's just on a different level. And Stafford is not only, there was some stuff like, I've heard people say, oh, Seattle's defense didn't play well in the championship. I think some of it was just Stafford. There were some throws where I'm like, that's not bad defense. That's just Stafford making an incredible throw. It's just Puka Nacua being more physical than Seattle's DB. I just don't think the Patriots have those guys on the outside to be able to really challenge Seattle. And of course, someone can clip this if New England wins and go, oh, the guy's an idiot. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm certainly not saying New England can't win. I just don't see any way they can do what the Rams did offense. And the Rams running game is really underrated. It doesn't have a lot of big names, but their offensive line is really good. And they were one of the top running teams. I think that was a key for the Rams' successes. If you notice, they were never in 2nd and 11, 2nd and 12. Even when they didn't bust big runs, it was 2nd and 6. Which opens up so much in the playbook for you. So that'll be a key. I don't think New England has to run the ball outstanding, but if they can get themselves into 2nd and 6s, 2nd and 7s, that might help them a little bit. You don't have to bust off the big runs, but the Rams are so good at that, of not losing yards in the running game. And then, 2nd and 6 against Nacua, Adams, that offensive line, and Stafford is so difficult because they can do so many things to you. And I just don't think the Patriots are going to be able to get themselves in the advantageous situations that the Rams did.
I did like that you brought up the whole thing that Seahawks have had problems trying to get to that quarterback. As much as they do well against the run, they tend to have a hard time sacking a quarterback. And let's look at the defensive stats on how many sacks, if I could even find that.
They had 50. Their sack total's decent, but I do think the one thing Seattle is missing is a true dominant edge rusher. They're, as a unit, they can get to you, but we saw against the Rams that their pass rush struggled to get home a little bit. So, but again, I think the Rams offensive line is better than New England's. I think the Rams have a really underrated O-line. So I think Seattle's front can dominate a little bit. I don't know where New England, I know they've struggled on the left side of their line this postseason. Drake May's been sacked 15 times this playoffs already. So, you could look at it hey, due for a good game, but also that they've had trouble over there. So that could be something where DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams on that side can wreak havoc. So, we'll see. But I think it's been something where the unit overall has been good. I think the sack total's decent, but I do think if you could ask Jay, what's the one thing Seattle's missing on defense? It would be just a dominant, a Max Crosby, someone that can just dominate one-on-one no matter what on the edge.
Myles Garrett is another one as well. And I looked at the sack total. Seahawks are close to a top 10, if not possibly a top 10 in sacks with 47. They were tied with the Rams. And the Patriots, they actually tend to have a difficult time getting to that quarterback. But also got to account to the fact that, what about the fact that the Seahawks, now don't get me wrong, their offensive line has definitely improved. We can agree that their offensive line couldn't have done any worse than they have done over literally the past decade, because Geno Smith couldn't really, it was amazing he even came up with 4,000 yards with that offensive line. As much as I was nowhere near a Geno Smith fan, I also acknowledged that, the offensive line really did not help either. But even then, I think Smith would have still struggled with a good offensive line. But that's going to be what the Patriots are going to have to do. They're going to have to try to get to Sam Darnold. But same with the Seahawks. It's the mobile quarterbacks, right? Brock Purdy's not saying he's completely mobile, but he knows how to escape on a busted pocket. He knows how to do that. And I think Drake May might be capable of doing that with his legs, maybe, because sometimes the Seahawks are not. I I don't really know if they really played that much of mobile quarterbacks. Like, we can look at that schedule and see how many they like. San Francisco, Brock Purdy counts. Pittsburgh didn't really have much of. I mean, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. So they have played quite a bit of those mobile quarterbacks, but it's going to be a matter of, can the Seahawks get to Drake May? Because if they can't get to Drake May, then it's all open game, I believe. Like, we can tinker around and debate. Everyone can debate about, oh, the Seahawks have the better defense and they got this, they got this, they got that. But there's also ticky-tack little things that you still have to look at, which is why it kind of irked me when everyone was like, oh, Tom Brady's not on the Patriots anymore. We have a chance. I'm like, yeah, but there's still little technical things that still have to be looked at. And even the Seahawks with their best defense, the LOB against the Patriots, although they were able to stop like LeGarrette Blount, who was known to be itch mode, if you know what I mean. Remember itch mode with that t-shirt and that parade? I just can't say it, but that's what his shirt was when he was taunting Seahawks fans and after that parade. But they couldn't get to Shane Vereen because they adjusted to passing to Shane Vereen, and he was able to get some key plays because Shane Vereen was more of a pass catching running back. So that's the other thing Seahawks are going to have to watch out for, is those little things like trying to get to Drake May and see what they do with their run game. Because if they don't do their run game effectively, who is to say that maybe they'll just try it on the pass? Now, sure, they stopped Christian McCaffrey, but also at the same time, the Seahawks are used to Christian McCaffrey. But the Patriots, like, this feels like a wild card team. And I know everyone's going to maybe that one person will dog on me and go, yeah, but they played the easiest schedule in the NFL. But I'm sure even the Cleveland Browns at one point had the easiest schedule in the NFL. Oh, and look how they do. They do absolute butt. So just because someone has an easy schedule and they're in the Super Bowl doesn't mean they should be discounted that way. And that was actually, I remember one of the criticisms the 98 Minnesota Vikings got. I remember with Randall Cunningham and Randy Moss, they were also dogging them that they were also playing on an easy schedule, but also they were literally just a field goal away from going to the Super Bowl. And I think if they had played against Denver Broncos, I think it would have been a pretty close, exciting game as well. So that's why I don't really like it when people are like, we can beat the Seahawks or we can beat the Patriots because we had a tougher schedule. They had an easy schedule. It's not exactly cut out and dry like that. Like, there's still a lot of things. And just because Seahawks are the slight favorite doesn't guarantee anything. And just because Drake May is a young quarterback, it also doesn't guarantee anything. So if I were you, Seahawks fans, I would be excited. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're all excited for the Super Bowl. Like, we've been waiting for this for over a decade. Like, we thought at one point, I actually thought the Seahawks were going to make it back within 3 years. Like, I really believed it within those 3 years, but unfortunately it just didn't happen because, I mean, when you lose the Super Bowl in that kind of magnitude, it does distract the whole team. And then contracts had to be given out, especially when you have big personnel of the LOB needing to get paid. Russell Wilson also kind of ate up the cap space. But nonetheless, like, we are excited, but at the same time, also keep your expectations leveled and don't expect that it's going to be easy. Like, the last thing we need to be is the 2001 Rams, because remember, they were a 14-point favorite against this Tom Brady Patriots back in the old days. And the Patriots handled them. They handled the Rams. Like, they gave Kurt Warner a really hard time. He actually threw a pick six against the Patriots, and they had to adjust just to tie the game. And Tom Brady was also able to race down the field and get Adam Vinatieri the field goal. So, again, like, the numbers stack up well for the Seahawks, but there's still little factors also. Like, Imanori, the safety, he also has had some injury concerns, but it looks like it says he's going to play. But even when you hear that someone's available to play, it does not guarantee that they're going to contribute effectively, because when you see injuries, they're not going to be able to do at their maximum potential. So there are things, and also the fact the Seahawks are still down a running back, because Charbonnet not being there is still going to hurt. So that's why I don't think that. And even if they're all healthy and everything, it's still not going to be a foregone conclusion. Like this is I mean, the Patriots did make the Super Bowl for a reason, and I think they do deserve a lot more respect, especially when Mike Vrabel brought that team from 4-13 going to the Super Bowl in just one season. So that deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, I think the schedule thing gets overblown. Also, I think even without the schedule, I think Seattle's the better football team here. Sometimes a better football team doesn't win, and they're not that much better. Where it's like the way I've kind of said is, I think if this game was played 10 times, I think Seattle probably wins 6 to 7, in that range. If these teams played 10 times in the next 10 weeks, I would expect that Seattle wins. I would say any 6 or 7 would be my prediction. So, I definitely think that it's that's where I would put it. That certainly leaves 3 or 4, but I definitely think the Seahawks are the better. I honestly, even if Seattle lose, I still think they're going to be the better football team. But just New England is good enough to win it for sure. So we'll see what happens. But I'm fairly confident, but also guarded. I think you always are in these games. Even if we were playing the Titans in the Super Bowl, I'd be guarded with it and nervous. There's no guarantee of anything.
Even the
but
Broncos,
I feel pretty good.
Even the Broncos with their backup quarterback, I still would be saying the same exact stuff.
Yeah, and that would, Denver's defense would definitely pose some issues too. So listen, there's no team making the Super Bowl that should be, a runaway. But like I said, I think Seattle's 4.5 point favorites. And that's about what I think. That's about where I would have it, is about 4.5. I think they're about 4.5 points better.
They are. So I think based on how we talked about in this show, I think there's really no point to do like what a pure prediction unless you really have one. I really just cannot make I can't make like a foregone prediction. Like my only prediction actually for this game, I guess we'll do it after all, but my only prediction is I just expect it to be similar to the Rams Patriots game from the 2018 Super Bowl, where it was a 13-3 kind of game. So I expect it to be somewhat low scoring just because both defenses do play pretty well. But yes, of course, got to look at the schedule, the strength of schedule, whatever. But again, Patriots still got to the Super Bowl for a reason. And let's remember the 2001 Patriots, they got to the Super Bowl for a reason. Yes, they were written off as not favorites at all, but they were still in the Super Bowl for a reason. And they won that Super Bowl for a reason. So, I mean, do you have any kind of a prediction, even though it's like, we just don't know.
23-13 Seahawks.
All right. Not that I agree, but I like the confidence, and we'll see. And one of our viewers says I'm that negative. He's got to go. Well, if you got to go, then there's Norbcam for you. He promotes positivity, so he's got you. But I mean, it's not me being negative. It's more like, well, there's a lot of other things there's still a lot of things to. All I was really doing was just seeing what the Patriots can do, even if the favorites are the odds are slightly against them. So it is what it is. But either way, I still look forward to watching the Super Bowl, even though I'm probably going to be screaming at that camera right there and doing the play-by-play in a very stressful tone, which is why I'm probably going to eat something very tasty before the Super Bowl. And speak of, Meowsies goes, any pro tips on Super Bowl snacks? I guess we might as well get to that. My tip is, if you want to spend money, do whatever's your most favorite food possible, but people usually like to go for nachos, nacho cheese, and I guess chicken wings. People love to do chicken wings, or basically I would just say be yourself and what makes you happy the most for the Super Bowl.
Agreed. I don't really have I don't eat much during the game because with the Seahawks playing, to be too nervous to eat during the game. So whatever floats your boat. I'm a big kind of just snacks person throughout the whole thing. So not really like a set meal. just whatever's out there, chips, dips, pizza, popcorn, pretzels, beer, whatever you want to go with, water, Gatorade, um, veggie tray, fruit tray, those type of things.
There you go. Those are our advices for the snacks. And yes, kimchi, absolutely, especially for the weather that we're having in Seattle, where first it's like 60 degrees 2 weeks ago, then it goes down to 30, and now it's back to 60, which is why our immune systems are messed up. But yes, kimchi is good for the immune system, and you're gonna need it because we're gonna be extremely stressed out during the Super Bowl, and it's gonna damage our immune system. So go eat that Korean kimchi. You want to know one? Just look up Korean places. They'll have kimchi for you. Just say kimchi and they'll point it to you. That's all you have to say. Just say, I need kimchi. They'll point it to you. Go get some kimchi. Now I want to go to the comments before I go into Rooftop Sports bad takes. That's kind of a new one I got to come up with. Now I got to disclose it before people go, oh, you're negative. How dare you? I'm getting out of here. Unsubscribe. And I want my money back. Yeah, but I might as well just let you guys know. But here is Johnny Hobbs. Sorry I didn't get to the comments because I was just so focused on doing the research, looking up the data. He also says he likes defensive football games. Hawks defense is so good. Don't even deny that. I mean, Mike McDonald has really turned around that defensive core, something that Pete Carroll kind of just lost his edge on that over the past decade, ever since Super Bowl 49. If anyone deserves to get nominated, it's the Patriots and the fans. Or dominated. I guess so. I guess including my best friend. I agree. I don't think the Patriots are near the team that the Rams are. You said that. DeMarcus Lawrence for the strip sack. Let's hope so. I wonder how... Do you know how Drake May hurt his shoulder? Was it that Broncos game? It was probably has to be the AFC Championship game.
I think it was before. I don't know. I just know they said it was a bit of an issue. So, it's one of those things like if they win, it's not an issue. And if they lose, it's an issue. It was like, remember Stafford was supposed to have like a hurt thumb or something like that. So, it was supposed to be something that was going to bother him. And then he threw for like 400 yards. So I doubt it's going to be anything that hampers them, but.
And then again, like football game is not just one on talent. Like, of course you need talent and personnel because that's what helps, but it's also going to be about who coaches it better too. That's also a very important component to winning a football game. He thinks that the Broncos with Bo Nix could have beaten the Patriots. I think so too. Yeah. If I watched the game better, if I had advice for the Broncos, I wonder if they actually tried to run the football more, because if it was a snowy AFC Championship game, I think that's what could have helped them. But since I didn't watch the game, I can't really make necessarily a fair assessment. I probably should have just watched the highlights, but I didn't get to that. Let me see how it was. It was a 10-7 game, and let's see how the Broncos did on the run. I mean, Drake May only threw for 86 yards, and he got sacked 5 times. And for oh my gosh, Denver's running was just absolutely just awful. That was a Patriots running game. No, here's also Broncos. Yeah, their running game was absolutely awful because the Patriots do have a good defense, so that's what made up for it. And then he says, I'm a negative man. He has got to go. Well, Norb Cam's got you, so at least I'm directing traffic for you, not just saying, oh, how dare that you say I'm negative and you're leaving. No, I get it. That's what the channel is. I will disclose it's not exactly the most positive channel in the Seattle community, so I don't know. Smells like an old Vietnamese man. What are you talking about? I don't know. Thinking to himself, did I have Wendy's once or twice today? He's saying all the jokes. Well, now
Wendy's getting too expensive.
All the fast food restaurants are getting expensive, which is why I'm in my childcare job. Everyone's like, before after school programs, they're like, I like McDonald's. I'm like, no, the McDonald's prices are just almost as much as just getting a burger from some, I don't know, Average Joe's Burger. You're better off going to Average Joe's Burger because at least the French fries are real. The burger is like handmade, put together kind of thing. You're better off getting that than going to McDonald's, which was probably made in some evil scientist laboratory at this point, and they're just putting a bunch of weird ingredients. And by the way, if you read the ingredients, the list is probably this big too. So do yourself a favor and stay away from those those little fast food restaurants. Go to Average Joe's little burgers and get that. Because I also have a good friend of mine. He makes burgers out of a food truck, his Mexican food truck. I saw him make the fries. He was just cutting the potatoes with just a knife in his hand. He shapes it up, throws into it. He let me taste some, and I was like, dude, this destroys McDonald's fries by far.
It's an actual potato. It's amazing.
Real potato. Come on, guys. Don't go for the mainstream poo-poo. Is this gonna be flick of the switch? You never fail to disappoint me. All right, let's get to Rooftop's bad takes. So here is why I'm extremely nervous for the Super Bowl. You know the Seahawks record when they wear all blues?
0-2.
And
big sample size.
It's big enough for me because 49 really did me a huge number. Patriots record in whites, 4-2. And 2 of those losses, I would like to say, had an asterisk because the first one they lost, 1996, 1997 was when they played the heavily loaded Green Bay Packers, ran by Mike Holmgren, Brett Favre in his prime, and Reggie White in his prime. That wasn't even fair. Oh, and just for fun, you had Andre Rison and Desmond Howard, who was the Super Bowl MVP, by the way. So it kind of wasn't even fair to begin with. So it's like, I think at that point, Patriots were just happy they even made the Super Bowl with the underdog quarterback from Wazoo, Drew Bledsoe. Then the second one, when they lost to the Eagles with Tom Brady. Tom Brady was on the Madden cover. So I think that's an asterisk right there. And I know these are horrible takes, but I also believe in stupid, superstitious hocus pocus. So I have that living rent-free in my head that, usually teams play a little bit better when they're wearing the white jerseys. And sadly, the Patriots did have dibs. And if they didn't believe in superstition, they would have chose their blue jerseys because their blue jerseys look more cool than the white jerseys. And the Seahawks, the one time they played the Super Bowl, they won the Super Bowl. And yes, small sample size, but typically the white jerseys, for the most part, they win more than they lose. So that's what's been living rent-free in my head for the last 2 weeks. And there's sometimes I go to my friends like, man, we're doomed. Seahawks are wearing blue. We're doomed. We're doomed. And all they say, oh, come on, just be positive, man. We're doomed. So that's what's living in my rent-free in my head. And also, Tom Brady was a second-year quarterback when he went to his first Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. And Bill Belichick was a relatively new coach at the time. And then we got Mike Vrabel, new coach, turning the whole thing around. And Drake May also on his second year. And I guess you might as well throw this out. Super Bowl 49 is based, the number 49, you think of 49ers. And the Seahawks are playing in 49ers Stadium. So I have those little bit of parallels and superstitions kind of in my brain, but I know deep down, very deep down, that just because you're wearing a piece of clothing doesn't automatically make you a Super Bowl loser or a Super Bowl champion. Like even let's say the Seahawks decide to go blue against the Broncos. No, Peyton Manning's not going to get that third Super Bowl because he still would have been killed by the LOB. But it's just things I just happened to research on the internet, looked at the numbers, and I go, oh, well, there's that to think about. But it's going to come down to who does better coaching, who runs the football better, and who protects their quarterback better. I know these are all easier said than done, but there are reasons why I do believe it may be a close game because Patriots still have the good defense, and Seahawks sometimes have problems trying to get to that mobile quarterback. So Yes, we're excited, but there's still little bits and pieces to look at. And what year did Patriots make their first Super Bowl? 1996 to
Nope,
1997.
85.
Oh, and they lost to
85.
when they got
Bears.
absolutely murdered by the
It
Bears.
felt like such a different like Patriots because the uniforms were different, such a different like time. Like I don't even equate those Patriots. You know what I mean? It just feels like such a different like world, the Patriots in 85 versus like the current Patriots.
The only thing that should have been done that Super Bowl was getting Walter Payton a touchdown, a rushing touchdown, which Mike Ditka to this day says that is his biggest regret one of his biggest regrets of his career. I think he regrets it more than the Ricky Williams trade.
Funny enough, the Patriots actually stopped Walter Payton pretty well in that Super Bowl. It was like the one thing they actually did a good job of was that. Everything else though was awful.
It was a disaster. Yeah. Oh man. We got the Rams guy. Unfortunately, the Super Bowl was the NFC title game. I disagree. The Rams would have won the game at home. You're not 100% wrong. That's a fair assessment.
Should have gotten the game at home then.
Maybe you should have kicked that field goal. Should have made that one. But then you had Sean Payton going, well, what about the 2-point conversion? Should have happened. It bounced off the help, but it bounced forward. So yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, man. But now reflecting the Super Bowl, and this is the bonus part. We'll reflect on Super Bowl 40. We'll just do this very briefly, but everyone's going to hate me for this and probably going to lose a bunch of people on this show going, you're negative. Bye. You're not a true fan. Bye. Okay, fine. So I remember Super Bowl 40 as being, of course, the refs and bad calls, the offensive pass interference on Darrell Jackson, which, by the way, that was a legitimate touchdown. That should have been a touchdown. The Matt Hasselbeck, after he threw the interception, when he did he was allegedly aiming for the knees. I mean, it was not a good Super Bowl to watch. But what I do acknowledge, though, is Josh Brown missed 3 field goals. Jeremy Stevens ran his mouth like a fool about Jerome Bettis going, hey, I'm so happy for Jerome Bettis. Had a great – too bad we have to ruin it when we kicked their – yeah. Not good when you can't back that up when you're dropping how many passes. And he dropped some of the most critical passes that were like easy first downs, open passes. Had he catch one of those passes, we probably win that Super Bowl. And also, before that Ben Roethlisberger questionable touchdown, before that, the Seahawks blew a 3rd and 28 to Hines Ward. So as much as it was a very controversial game, not a fun game to watch, it was ref balled and whatever, but there were still things that the Seahawks still screwed up on. And where was Sean Alexander? He was basically nowhere. He sure got 90 yards, but it wasn't a good 90 yards.
It was a quiet 90 yards. Yeah, I remember after that game, it's kind of funny you said that, because remember after that game looking at the box score, I think he had 95. I remember going like, I don't remember any of those. Like he almost had 100 yards rushing. And I'm like, when did this happen? I don't remember him getting the ball. But you're right. It was a very quiet 95. And yeah, I agree. I think there was definitely a lot of questionable calls. I don't think it was PI on Darrell Jackson. The Hasselbeck call was terrible. And there was a holding on Locklear the play before that I thought was terrible. The Big Ben touchdown to me was probably the most like I don't think it was a touch. I don't think it was a touchdown, but I do understand that's hard to overturn. You know what I mean? So like, I
thought Ben was yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And then Jeremy Stevens dropped a couple passes in that game. So I'm with you. Seattle didn't play their best football. I think the only thing the calls did was rob us of what should have been a more even game. I'm not even going to say Seattle would have won because I don't know for sure, but I definitely think it was probably closer than the score indicated for sure.
Other things I remembered. So I'm going to go over that Ben touchdown really quick. I mean, I watched that play like several times. Like I did watch it. Like fortunately, I watched it like 6 years later when people can just hack and put stuff on YouTube all the time. And when I watched that game again, I was like, wait, we kind of played like garbage. And then when I looked at that touchdown, back then I didn't even know what the rule was, where all you had to do was break the plane in the air, and the ball kind of did. But when I was a kid, I first thought they called the touchdown because he like brought the ball out like this. Like, oh yeah, the ball's crossing. I thought that's what it was when he was already down, but he was in the air where the football. It was like more of a 50-50, like, but it was really hard to overturn. So I thought that was more of a fair call than the other ones. But even if you ask Steeler fans, most will say, yeah, the Darrell Jackson touchdown probably should have been a touchdown. Sean Locklear hold. That should have been offset because the defensive guy was offsides. So that should have been a double flag and just say penalties offset, maybe replay it at best, maybe. And then the other thing I noticed, after Ben scored, the Seahawks still had plenty of time to race down the field to get a quick score or a field goal. And there was one moment where Matt Hasselbeck was calling audibles for literally 30 seconds, turning his head. And it was like, what are you guys doing? And then the Steelers mercifully called that timeout because they thought the audible was going to work because they thought they were going to go all the way. But the issue was 30 seconds was just wasted. But
I remember that. That's a great call. I forgot about that. You just pulled up another thing I'll say too is Josh Brown, I think, missed 2 field goals. I don't know if you mentioned that.
I mentioned, I think I said 3, but I think 2 is a more safer say.
Yeah, I think it was 2, but still. Yeah, I remember that. You just brought up that. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And it was like one of those 20, 30 seconds. Like, dude, you've got to run a play. It was getting too cute. What was the Ben touchdown? Was that a 3rd down play or a 4th down play?
3rd down. And then Steeler fans.
Even if they call it short, like you're that. I mean, I'm not trying to there's a decent chance they probably would bet us get in on 4th down anyway. So it's like, even if they say no touchdown, that doesn't mean that they don't score.
They're getting at least 3. They're still getting at least 3 points on that drive.
Or they're kicking the field goal potentially. Yeah. So, I mean, either way, I think they would have gone for it, but and then they're leaving you at the inch yard line if they don't get it. So that one to me was probably the most it was just on top of everything. I think that's the issue for most fans. Yeah.
But that's the most popular one. But at the same time, it was I still think that was the least controversial. And man, we went so much. We talked about Super Bowl 40, but let's go with 48, where there's not really much to say. It was just a defensive massacre. But I remember watching that game and I was like, oh crap, Peyton Manning just passed a touchdown. Is this their comeback? Because we also saw the Houston Oilers gave up a 35-3 lead to the Bills. So anything was still kind of possible. But at the same time, the Seahawks just flat out just embarrassed the Broncos, because before that Super Bowl, everyone was gazing about Peyton Manning, his 55 touchdowns and all of his unlimited receivers and running backs, and Seahawks #1 defense just absolutely embarrassed them.
Yeah, I mean, that one to me, I had the same feeling, of course, as a fan. You're in that mindset, it's never over. Is this where they come back? Oh, they could recover an onside kick, and then Manning's going to score right away. And it's then you look back and you go, how on earth was I not just I mean, we kind of knew. I mean, truthfully, that game was over. A buddy of mine, we joke all the time. They did that Percy Harvin end around. I think it was 5-0 or 2-0 at the time. And
2-0.
My buddy, and my buddy was he's I knew it was over right then and there. He's not even a Seahawks fan. He's a Niners fan. He's Denver didn't have the speed. There was no way they were keeping up with Seattle. And I mean, the Seahawks were so I think some guys even said they knew they were winning that game when they watched film on Denver that week. It was just, Denver was so old and slow. And listen, they were good. They made it to the Super Bowl. But I mean, the Seahawks had just faced Colin Kaepernick, who was extremely mobile. And obviously Manning's the better passer, but Kaepernick was a better athlete at that time. He's running for 100 yards. Manning couldn't move. Denver's O-line wasn't good. It only looked good because Manning got rid of the ball so quick. Seattle's front four dominated. And their offense is kind of what we're looking for the offense to be on Sunday, right? They weren't, I know it scored 43 points, so it sounds crazy, but 14 of those were special teams and defense. They didn't turn the football over. They took the points when they were there. They didn't get, Lynch didn't go off. Wilson was perfect. Not perfect in the sense of he was 30 of 30, but he was perfect for what you needed. I think he was 19 of 25 for 213 yards and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns. That's exactly what you're kind of looking for Sam Darnold on Sunday. So yeah, that one was just just domination. And, it's funny because I actually think Denver was favored slightly at kickoff. I think by a point or two, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe flipped to Seattle by a point. But everybody was hyping that Super Bowl up as like best defense versus best offense. I mean, I remember watching a lot of stuff. It was very split. It wasn't like, oh, Seattle all the way. It was pretty, like most people picked Seattle. Like I think that would have been, out of every 100, I think 55 went Seattle. But it was not some like, it wasn't Bears Patriots 85 or like, I don't know what the national media was like back then, but I'm sure it was 99 out of 100 picking the Bears.
You mean the Broncos?
No, I'm just saying like when the
Bears?
Seahawks, the Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl was not something that was, I think, people predicted to be a blowout.
Oh,
unlike
you accidentally said Bears.
No, I was saying the Bears Patriots Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah,
I guarantee
yeah.
everybody knew that Super Bowl was going to be a blowout that year. I don't think people thought that about the Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl.
Broncos were favored to win the Super Bowl by 1-3. They were about a 3-point favorite, and obviously the Seahawks covered the spread pretty impressively. But that was probably but that was not exactly a good Super Bowl to exactly make money on if you wanted to go cheap. So I wouldn't have. Now the ones who like the Super Bowl to make money on was 2001 when. Think about it, a 14-point favorite Rams team. And if you just happened to go for the Patriots and you were like, oh, $10, nothing to lose, you probably won $100 on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Now Super Bowl 49. The only I was absolutely horrified of the Super Bowl. Like there was actually a small part of me that if the Seahawks had just lost the Packers, I actually would have felt no shame. It just wasn't their day. Like it didn't seem like it was just meant to be. I mean, every time Russell Wilson threw the Jermaine Kearse interception until the fifth pass was a catch. There was a small part of me that I was actually like, if we don't make the Super Bowl, at least we don't have to have the idea of losing to the Patriots. That I would have not preferred that. And even then, I remember at the time I was like, are they going to suspend Tom Brady for Super Bowl 49? Okay, they're not going to. Of course not. And then the game wasn't off to a good start. And then they came back with a Marshawn Lynch touchdown. Chris Matthews, the forgotten hero who would have been, I think he would have been the greatest one-time wonder MVP if the Seahawks had won that Super Bowl. He caught touchdown. And then the Seahawks took a 10-point lead. I think it was like 24-14. And of course, the Seahawks had to get cute with Doug Baldwin doing his cute little, what was it? His poop celebration. Like I was like,
sing or something. Yeah.
I did not like that because I was like, dude, just play the game. You're still playing the Belichick Patriots. And then they came back with, like I said, the whole Shane Vereen thing. Julian Edelman was just too much. And then Harold Simon, that's who I remember. He got absolutely just blasted. He just got absolutely just murdered.
Because Jeremy Lane, like leg shattered on his interception.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's right.
Or his arm. I don't know if it was his arm. I think it was both. I think his arm and his leg on that play.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why Simon was even in the game.
And then Cam Chancellor was playing. I think he was playing with a torn MCL, and Richard Sherman had
left for the concussion.
Yeah, the fact the Seahawks even made that a game was impressive. And then let's not forget that Russell Wilson was just throwing the ball 50 yards. It's like, okay, someone's got to catch it. And then he threw it to Jermaine Kearse. It was like, oh, crap, he dropped. Oh, wait, he caught it. And then we were like, okay, there's a chance. And then they were showing that David Tyree catch and the Jermaine Kearse catch. And then everyone's thinking, oh, no, the Patriots are about to choke again, aren't they? Oh, wait. No. First it was Marshawn Lynch. He's just 1 yard away. And then, okay, we're going to win this. Wait, no. We pass it to Ricardo Lockett, and it was just intercepted by Malcolm Butler. And I remember everyone was just screaming WTF at the Super Bowl party. I just frozen, I was like this. And also no one talks about that. After that interception, the Seahawks technically had a chance to get a safety because they were all the way down at the 1. So maybe everyone just goes all out blitz on Tom Brady because he can't take a knee. Get the 2 points, punt the football. Russell Wilson throws like 40 yards, and then Steven Hauschka goes for a field goal. So there was that. Oh, oops. Michael Bennett went offsides, and then he got into a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think the offside was him trying to do that, trying to jump to get in there to make the play. So I almost excuse it a little bit. I mean, even if they would have gotten that safety, that wouldn't have. But I mean, you never know because you get the free kick. But I remember thinking that. I remember I was like, well, if they can get. I remember thinking that at the interception, like they can get a safety here somehow and get the ball back. But it wasn't. It wasn't meant to be on that day. But yeah, I remember Curse caught the pass. I remember thinking like, okay, like don't go too fast here. Like let the clock run. You know what I mean? Because I was worried, like, oh my gosh, they're going to score with like a minute to go. And there's no way Brady's not getting in field goal range at least. So I'm like, okay, milk the clock. They were doing everything right until they threw the interception.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
times.
still not. I'm still not recovered from that mentally because it literally. I was a negative fan then. That one like doubled or tripled my negativity, and I was like on Facebook, like in the entire 2015 season. If things didn't go right, I just kept saying fire Bevel like every single week, and I would say snaky posts like, as long as Darrell Bevel was fired, losing this game was totally worth it. Like. I totally let that game. So maybe the Seahawks trading away Russell Wilson was probably the best thing that happened to me as a Seahawks fan other than Super Bowl 48, because maybe a fresh start was absolutely needed. It was overdue. And I remember at the time when they traded Russell Wilson, I was like, oh, they traded Russell Wilson. I wasn't even like, WTF, they traded Russell Wilson. It was more like, oh, they traded Russell. Okay, what did we get? 2 first-round picks. Okay, I'm good for a rebuild. I remember I was cheering for I was actually hoping to tank for like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud at the time, but Geno Smith had other plans, and well, good thing they didn't tank, because I don't think we would, if we had just tanked that season, they wouldn't have had the foundation to lead up to, and hey, they wouldn't have attracted Mike McDonald because it was still a good football team to coach. It's just, they just needed young blood.
Well, and they got fortunate too, that not fortunate, but like they didn't end up having to tank because Denver with Russ ended up not intentionally tanking, but tanking. So they kind of got the best of both worlds. And that is that they still got the top 5 draft pick out of it. And then they were able to make a, not a serious playoff run, but a playoff run, to get in. So kind of ended up working out perfecly. But I'm with you. Like,
That's what
I was kind of in favor of tanking too at that point. Then Geno ended up being, Geno was solid. Even his 3 years here is certainly better than I think what we expected it to be. Like, there were certainly limitations, but he was fine, capable starting quarterback, which I don't think, we necessarily saw coming. And, they ended up kind of, I think, having to, ironically, it probably kind of cost Pete his job. I mean, I'm with you. It was kind of more the defense just falling off, but I wonder if they had tanked that year and been terrible, if Pete would actually have been able to, because they were good in 22, made the playoffs, then missed in 23. But let's say they tanked in 22, then would it be more of like they're on the rise now?
It would have been, I think it would have been more of an understandable. It was like, well, Russell was gone, so I get it.
Yeah.
So maybe Pete Carroll could have milked it another year extra, and then we don't get Mike McDonald.
Yeah, so maybe it all works out for a reason the way it happens.
And plus, the biggest criticism I had on Russell Wilson, other than his celebrity status kind of mentality, was he just wouldn't take a pay cut. We were all begging him, just take a pay cut to make room for the offensive line or just a better defense. He wouldn't do it. That's why that was the biggest part I was disappointed in him, was that I would say pre-Sierra Russell, I think, would have taken a pay cut, but because you've got Sierra, you need the status of being like the top 10, top 5 paid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's what makes it so difficult to win sustainably in this league. Like, you end up paying these quarterbacks and the rest of the roster declines. I mean, even look at the Chiefs. I mean, I know they made the Super Bowl last year and won it the year before, but outside of like Mahomes, that roster kind of sucks. Like, I mean, if you look at it top to bottom, Look how bad they were when Mahomes went out. They got crushed by Tennessee. I mean, you could if you started the season again and took Mahomes out, the Chiefs are in competition for a top 3 pick in the league. I think for Seattle, if Sam Darnold missed the season with Drew Lock, I think they're still a playoff team. I don't know how deep they go or whatnot, but like when you have to pay these quarterbacks the big money, and it's tough because you can't like not do it either. You know what I mean? Because it's especially if you think you're competing. So, like you said, if they're not willing to like take the pay cuts, like you also feel like your Super Bowl window is open, so you don't want to just end it. But you're in a really just puts you in a really tough spot.
Makes you wonder. Like, I think if the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, it's going to raise a lot of questions on how football teams are to be built because, I don't know, because we've seen it where these top 10 quarterbacks, it's kind of tough for them we haven't seen them exactly win a Super Bowl other than Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. They all took big money. But typically when you're like Aaron Rodgers, who blew up the cap space, Matt Ryan, I think, blew up the cap space. Russell Wilson blew up the cap space. Jordan Love also blew up the cap space. What is left with the team? Now you're just left with your quarterback, and everyone else is just meh. When deep down, like, I do think the best football team to run is my favorite kind of football team is a team with a great defense, a great run game, and at least a quarterback who is not so much franchise material, but he can at least win you the game when it matters. Like, you at least want
Seattle.
Or 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Like, they did it with Trent Dilfer. He was someone that did the least amount of screw ups, but he also stepped up when it was needed most. But we're going to find out on Sunday how it goes on when you have a quarterback that doesn't necessarily blow up the cap space. And so far, Sam Darnold has exceeded expectations, but he still has to help win the big one when it matters most. And before we go, the only thing I hope for Sam Darnold, I hope you're not afraid of ghosts anymore.
Yeah,
that's the running
Patriots
joke. It was. And as if we saw the rumors that is Jody Allen selling the team. There was rumors that Robert Kraft started that, and of course he would. I don't know if that's 100% true, but someone out there leaked it to maybe cause a distraction, even though I still believe I don't think people should be too shocked by it because, it's going to happen. I do think Jody Allen is going to sell the team eventually. She's not going to hold on forever, just like any other business. No one holds on to that forever. It's just that the timing of saying it was just really weird. I figured they were going to, and there's always been talk about that. Like, we already knew this, but it was just the timing was just weird. Now, and good thing it happened the week before. If it happened this week, it would have been a disaster.
That's interesting. I never thought about Kraft possibly leaking that, but actually does kind of make sense a little bit. Like, it wouldn't totally shock me if that's what it was. I hadn't thought of that, but I think you might be right on that.
The evil empire at its best is pretty much. So, well, either way, we're looking forward to it. I'm nervous. You're probably nervous. We're all nervous. Some are excited. Some are thinking Super Bowl 48 outcome. I don't know. I'm thinking of it as like a close Super Bowl matchup and maybe a defensive kind of game. But everyone, all I can say to you for the next 48 hours, get some good sleep. And again, before we go, I want everyone for prayers or some kind of good vibes or whatever you believe in. I do have that regional Special Olympics basketball tournament where I'm helping to lead to hopefully get this team to state. We have to win 3 games. It's going to be a challenge, but we have a really good team. I do believe in them. I coach the team. I help coach the team, so I can't really approach that team as if I'm approaching the Mariners and the Seahawks. This one I have to be like very positive but firm. So the only thing I ask for is not going to ask to be granted like a spot for state because I don't believe in that. I believe in execution, not having something be handed. But everyone just pray or believe or spread good vibes that no one on my team gets hurt and no one fights each other and no one's arguing with the refs. Let them do their jobs. That's the only thing I ask. Like, I'm not going to ask for, oh, let's get my team to state. No, I don't believe in that. And it's not fair to the other team because chances are someone on that team is going to would be doing the same thing I'm doing. So that's
absolutely. I will do that. No problem.
That's the send off. So everyone, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for chiming in the comments, making fun of me, saying the Seahawks are good, saying I'm negative, whatever it is. Jay Trident, thank you for being here. And any closing thoughts of this Seahawks Super Bowl?
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Rooftop Sports thanks you for watching this presentation of the National Football League.